Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. I'm Miles, your host and representative from Back to Your Roots Herbs. Today, we are tackling a topic that sits right at the intersection of gym culture, men's health, and a whole lot of internet confusion. We are talking about turkesterone, and specifically what it actually does to your libido. If you have spent any time on fitness forums or scrolling through social media, you have probably seen the hype. You have guys claiming it turned them into an absolute machine, and then you have others saying it made them feel completely flat. And then there is the third group, the ones who are terrified it's going to shrink their goods or mess up their hormones like traditional anabolics do. So, let's clear the air right now. We are going to look at what the science actually says, what the history tells us, and why your experience might be totally different from the guy next to you. First, we have to address the biggest myth out there. Most people buy turkesterone because they think it is a natural testosterone booster. They think it's going to skyrocket their T levels, and as a result, their sex drive is going to go through the roof. Here is the reality check. Turkesterone is not a testosterone booster. I know, that might sound disappointing if you bought it for that reason, but stick with me, because the truth is actually much more interesting and safer. Modern clinical trials, including very recent ones from 2024, have looked at this specifically. They gave guys effective doses of Ajuga extract. That's the plant turkesterone comes from. And they measured their hormones. Guess what happened to their testosterone? Nothing. It stayed completely stable. Now, you might be thinking, Miles, if it doesn't boost testosterone, then how can it possibly help with libido? And why do some people swear they feel more alpha on it? This is where we have to get a little bit technical, but I promise I'll keep it simple. Think of your libido like a high-performance car. Testosterone is the gas pedal. If you stomp on it, the car goes fast. That's how steroids work. They flood the engine with fuel, but they also burn out the engine and crash the system later. Turkesterone works differently. It doesn't touch the gas pedal. Instead, it works on the brakes and the steering. The science points to a specific mechanism involving something called estrogen receptor beta. Now, don't let the word estrogen scare you. In the male brain, this receptor is responsible for handling stress and anxiety. When you are stressed, your body hits the brakes on your reproductive system. It says, "We are in danger, now is not the time to reproduce." Turkesterone appears to bind to this receptor, acting as an anxiety reducer. It helps your body handle stress better. So, instead of chemically forcing your drive up, it removes the stress that was pushing it down. It releases the brakes. For a lot of guys, simply feeling less stressed, more recovered, and more vital leads to a natural, healthy increase in drive. It's not a manic, hormonal spike. It's a sustainable feeling of well-being. Let's go back in time for a minute. A lot of what we know comes from the Soviet Union during the Cold War. They were obsessed with finding performance enhancers that wouldn't show up on drug tests and wouldn't ruin their athletes' health. They developed a pharmaceutical version of these compounds called Estrogen. They ran studies that we are just now really starting to appreciate. There was a fascinating one from the year 2000 by a researcher named Mirzaev. He wasn't just looking at bodybuilders, he was looking at men who were in bad shape. One group of men in the study were recovering from heart attacks. Now, imagine the stress on your body after a heart attack. Your system is shattered, you are anxious, and your sexual function usually tanks because of the trauma and the medication. They gave these men the EC steroid compound, and they saw a significant improvement in their sexual function. Why? It wasn't because it jacked up their hormones. It was because it acted as a restorative. It helped their bodies generate energy again. It improved their blood flow. It helped them recover. And when the body recovers, the libido comes back online. They also looked at men with secondary infertility, guys who were having trouble conceiving. After taking the supplement, their copulative function improved. That's a fancy medical term for the ability to perform, but more importantly, their sperm quality improved. This brings me to a massive point that often gets overlooked. If you take traditional anabolic steroids, you are playing Russian roulette with your fertility. The body senses all that artificial hormone and shuts down its own production. Your testicles can shrink, and your sperm count can drop to zero. It's a major price to pay. Turkesterone does the opposite. Because it doesn't trigger that negative feedback loop in the brain, your body keeps producing its own hormones naturally. In fact, those Soviet studies and animal models suggest it might actually protect the testicles. It acts as an antioxidant, shielding those sensitive cells from damage. So, if you are a natural athlete who wants to preserve your long-term health and fertility, this is a huge distinction. But we have to talk about the other side of the coin. If you go on Reddit or bodybuilding forums, you will see threads where guys say, "Turkesterone killed my libido," or they say they felt great for 2 weeks and then they crashed. What is happening there? If the science says it doesn't suppress hormones, why do some guys feel worse? There are three likely culprits, and none of them are the turkesterone itself causing hormonal shutdown. The first is overtraining. This is the most common one. You buy a new supplement, you are excited, you think, "I'm on the juice now," so you start training 6 days a week, going to failure on every set. You are pushing your body harder than ever. Turkesterone helps with recovery, yes, but it's not magic. If you dig a hole deeper than your body can fill, your cortisol levels, that's your stress hormone, will spike. High cortisol is the enemy of libido. It kills your drive instantly. So the crash isn't the supplement, it's the systemic fatigue from the way you are training. The second culprit is the quality of the product. This industry is like the Wild West. Extracting pure turkesterone from the Ajuga plant is expensive and difficult. There have been analyses showing that many products on the shelf contain almost no active ingredients. Or worse, some shady brands might spike their pills with cheap synthetic androgens or even tiny amounts of ED medication to make you feel it working. If you get a spiked product, you are on a roller coaster you didn't sign up for. When you stop taking it, you crash. That is why source matters so much. The third factor is psychological. The mind is powerful. There is something called the nocebo effect. That's the opposite of a placebo. If you read a forum post where a guy says his libido dropped and then you start taking the pill, you might start hyper-analyzing how you feel. Do I feel less drive today? Is my morning wood weaker? If you look for a problem hard enough, you will find it. Anxiety about your libido is the fastest way to kill your libido. So, where does that leave us? What is the verdict? Turkesterone is an adaptogen. That is the best word for it. It helps your body adapt to stress. If you are a healthy guy, sleeping well, and training smart, you probably won't feel a massive shift in your libido one way or the other. It's not Viagra, and it's not Trenbolone. It's neutral to slightly positive because it supports your overall vitality. However, if you are a guy who is under a lot of stress, maybe you are working long hours, training hard, and you feel like your tank is empty, that is where this compound shines. It can help support that energy production and reduce the mental and physical fatigue that keeps your drive down. It supports the machinery of your body without hijacking the controls. It improves blood flow, likely through something called the MAS1 receptor, which helps with vasodilation, and it supports metabolic health. So, if you decide to try it, treat it with respect. Don't use it as an excuse to destroy yourself in the gym. Use it to support your recovery. Pay attention to how you feel, but don't obsess over it. And remember, the goal here is longevity and performance, not a quick fix that costs you your health later. We want you to be strong, healthy, and capable for the long haul. That is what this is all about. I hope this clears up the confusion and helps you make a better decision for your own stack. To learn more, please visit us at backtoyourrootsherbs.com. The direct link for information on turkesterone effects on libido is in the description below. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.